All right, no preamble. Today we're talking about Coindesk, which is a crypto news publication centering on finance, technology, and Web3. Some people might not care, but for those that do, let's get right into it. Coindesk is currently fielding criticism from a lot of people over editorial choices where the outlet removed two individual articles from the platform. The first was a critical piece regarding Chainalysis, a blockchain data analytics firm, and the second is a scathing op-ed about Justin Sun, a cryptocurrency billionaire existing in the highest circles of finance. These two articles were pulled down for their failure to meet Coindesk journalistic standards, so to speak, but in the wake of those decisions, community backlash has been building against them. Let's start right in with Justin Sun. This right here is the article in question, obviously on the Internet Archives or Wayback Machine because it's no longer live. It was removed because, quote, any person, whether they are a CEO of a large blockchain or someone unknown to the public eye, deserves to know who is assailing their character in a public-facing outlet such as Coindesk. Given that the very nature of the piece violates that standard, allowing us no way to merely correct the story and be done with it, we are removing the story in its entirety. That was their statement. It's an interesting justification, it really is. Viewers can obviously draw their own conclusions, I highly encourage that, but let's dig a little bit deeper. Justin Sun, as well as three of his companies, count them three, Tron Foundation, BitTorrent, and Rainberry, are currently under investigation by the SEC for unregistered sale of securities, as well as, allegedly, fraudulently manipulating the secondary market for a token known as TRX. Now, obviously, an investigation being active is not by itself proof of wrongdoing. We need to consider that. However, if we turn towards the world of sponsored content, things get a little bit more interesting. For starters, going back a couple of years, there are at least 8 different articles I could see directly listed on Coindesk that are sponsored by Tron. Tron being directly tied, obviously, to Justin Sun himself. But even further, the very top article you can see on their sponsored content page right now as I script this video is courtesy of an exchange called Whitebit. Whitebit, funnily enough, has drawn scrutiny this very year for its incredibly unrealistic interest yields, similar in my opinion to those of now bankrupt lending platform Celsius, where Alex Mashinsky has actually been arrested in that case, as well as its connections to Justin Sun, meaning that there are multiple different companies here sponsoring a large amount of content on Coindesk tracing back directly to Justin Sun himself, while a scathing op-ed about his similarities to other polarizing figures in crypto, such as Sam Bankman-Fried, is taken down. The only word I have to describe that, so far, is interesting. Now, one instance of such activity by itself wouldn't really be worth covering in a long-form video, so let's get to the second example. This right here is what I consider to be a fact-based article about Chainalysis and some of its flaws. Obviously, again, Wayback Machine, because it's been pulled down. Swerve, literally as I wrote this and refreshed the page and did my recording and stuff, they put the article back up. I was gathering the footage for the video and they put the article back up. They stripped it, issued a statement, and already caved to the public pressure, so I'll continue on and read the statement that used to be up about why they took it down, but they have now reversed their takedown as a result of public pressure, I would assume. I had to do an emergency edit and put that in just to clarify. This article was published under a pseudonym, Lola Leitz to be precise, and was retracted, according to Coindesk, because, quote, we take a firm position that a person's right to privacy is to be respected, articulated here in relation to our opposition to doxing harmless individuals. As such, we allow the use of anonymous sources and, from time to time, publish articles written under pseudonymous bylines, but with one very important caveat. We cannot grant the cloak of that identity protection to a writer who launches an outright personal attack against an individual. The article about Chainalysis contained such an attack on one of the company's staff members. Any person, whether they are in the public eye or not, deserves to know who is assailing their character in a public-facing outlet such as Coindesk. End quote. I would assume that by this they refer to a specific line at the very end of the article, which reads, maybe Bisbee would be better suited pursuing an art history degree. That would be the portion closest to an outright personal attack, at least in my view, but the meat and bones, the core premise, I see nothing there that should or ever would constitute a full takedown. Still, let's dig a little bit deeper. Question. Coindesk is a notably successful crypto news outlet, but who actually owns the platform? Answer, according to Coindesk themselves, a venture capital firm called DCG, Digital Currency Group. Actually, in 2019, Coindesk announced that they would be even moving into the same building as DCG. Once again, draw your own conclusions here. Coindesk adamantly states that they have no conflict of interest whatsoever, and that they operate entirely separate from DCG in terms of editorial independence. But DCG, first realized in 2015, actually invested directly in Chainalysis, which is the subject of the second critical op-ed that was removed entirely. 1 year later, after the initial Chainalysis investment in 2015, DCG then acquired, not just invested in, but full-scale acquired, Coindesk, meaning that a parent company that outright owns a publication outlet also invested substantially in the very same company that the outlet now seems to be protecting, with what I would personally describe as a flimsy, very flimsy reliance on policy against personal attacks in order to completely delete fact-based reporting. Well, at least that's my opinion on the matter. Going even further, Coindesk seems to be in the process of getting sold again, or at least it was. According to Axios, an investor group led by Matthew Rossax as of July 2023 was in the process of acquiring the outlet, with what appeared to be mass layoffs in the lead up to that event. And Matthew Rossax, as pointed out by Parrot Capital on Twitter, seems to be in proximity to a lot of content that, confusingly, gets deleted or just goes missing. Matthew Rossax can prominently be seen here alongside figures like Changpeng Zhao, a man whose business ventures are currently the subject of large-scale regulatory investigations and interventions for very, very serious topics, having to do with finance, money laundering, and terrorism. Big shout out to Parrot Capital again on Twitter for highlighting this connection. I'll link to their page down below. My personal opinion here is that an elevated group of crypto moguls, multiple of which are under tightening regulatory scrutiny as we speak, at the exact same time, are protecting each other. One of the ways that this protection has now manifested, again, personal opinion here based on what I see as evidence in the space, one of the ways that they protect each other and that protection is manifested is the deletion of critical articles, while the very same subjects who have had criticism of them deleted sponsor an enormous amount of content on the Coindesk platform. Please do keep in mind, such a scenario does not mean that every writer at the publication is corrupt or even aware of what might be happening. It does not even conclusively mean that these articles were removed to protect crypto elite donors, sponsors, or owners. But the sum total of this information absolutely does impact optics and should be known by anyone seeking to draw their own independently informed conclusions, especially any readers of the platform. The most interesting thing here is that Chainalysis is attempting to be the source of definitive information in crypto that can hold up in court. The article by Lola Leitz, that has now been pulled down completely, undermined that quest, but if you, the viewer, is willing to take a step back with me, I'd like to look at a broader potential picture and ask a series of what-ifs. What if reporting that undermines the credibility of Chainalysis is thereby undermining the ability for Chainalysis data to be used in courts of law? In August of 2023, August 9th to be precise, Cointelegraph published an article containing expert opinion that Chainalysis data has led to a wrongful arrest and that it could not be trusted in a court of law. As a result, if we are willing to believe that such reporting hinders the ability of Chainalysis data to be used in courts of law for what it is designed to be used for, what if certain cases in the crypto industry were to be severely weakened? And what if massive financial parties involved were unwilling to let that happen? Void of opinion here, the crypto industry is wildly incestuous. There are connections between major companies, unbeknownst to the public, that completely undermine the concept of a free market. That much is just self-evident. And some of those connections have been largely exposed over the past few years, but many more of them remain hidden, as of now, beneath the surface. My opinion here is that we are witnessing small ripple effects in a wider power struggle that is playing out behind closed doors. Regulators, court battles, and billionaires are all contending with a rising tide of public opinion, and while much of this, once again, as if I haven't said enough already, is personal opinion, it seems clear to me that when an outlet is deleting content with loose justification, very loose in my eyes, and that content is critical of wealthy investors or related entities that the parent company of that outlet invested in or owns or has sponsored multiple articles on their platform, there's more going on than meets the eye. Maybe it really just is a simple case of personal attacks that don't meet their journalistic standards, subsequently being removed for that violation, but I see no reasonable evidence to that end. Yes, these articles were written under pseudonyms. Yes, they contained very critical analysis, but the tone of a piece is far, far less important than its substance. Bottom line, a singular instance where content was pulled, which ties back in with various connections to criminally charged billionaires or prior content sponsors, would be a fluke, obviously. And two might actually be a total coincidence right now. But the number of connections, the way in which they weave together, and the surrounding circumstances in play have led me to believe that Coindesk has some severe conflicts of interest at their doorstep. I'd be lying if I said I'd never read any of their articles, or enjoyed a lot of them, or found value in some of their reporting. Most notably, their critical content published about Sam Bankman-Fried, which in large part led to his ultimate arrest and downfall. That's good stuff. The best of stuff, really, especially in this industry. So when I criticize the platform today, please know that I do so out of a desire to seek truth, not a desire to slander a publication that has done measurable good for the crypto industry and the world. But these questions need to be asked, the connections need to be examined, and clarity over what precisely is happening and why is always a good thing, especially in crypto, especially in the current market. That's it. If you support the channel, please check out the links down below, primarily Locals and Patreon for monthly subscriptions, also specific links to various Twitter profiles where independent researchers have done excellent work compiling a lot of this information, such as Parrot Capital, Cryptodamist, or Lola Leads, and more as well, YouTube alternatives, cybersecurity product affiliates, etc., etc. There's a lot of links down below, but I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.